Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Female Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Danny, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Laura, who is an online coach herself. And I think I actually know of you from when we both used to compete, but now we've obviously both taken a bit of a step back from bodybuilding. And I thought that it would be really good to cover on today's podcast how we can balance a social life with body composition or performance related goals. So as an introduction for those who might not know of you so well, how did you get into the fitness industry in the first place? And how long have you been coaching for?
So I first got into fitness, it was probably back in like 2013. I think my boyfriend at the time, he was into the gym. So I was like, oh, I'll come with you sort of thing. I was at uni at the time, so didn't like take it seriously, like obviously living the uni life and drinking more than I should have and going out and all of that. So didn't take it quite so seriously. So that was through uni, and then I did my PT qualification once I finished uni back in 2016, and sort of got into fitness that way. Started off as a PT, and obviously then PT'd up until first lockdown, and then sort of took my business online, and that's how I sort of became an online coach. But yeah, in terms of fitness, I started when I was sort of in uni. How many years ago is that now? Like 8 years ago. I feel old now. About 8 years ago, I started sort of getting into the gym, and never really took it seriously until obviously then I started competing in 2017.
Nice. And when was the last time you competed, out of interest?
So that was in 2018. So I did 3 shows in 2018. So I did one in like July, I did Northwest in September, and then I did finals in the October, I think. So for that year of 2018, I dieted from like the January right up until the I think the October was British finals. So it was a long slog of dieting that year. But
yeah, it's interesting because you started personal training actually at a very similar time to what I did. I did my PT course in 2015, so it's pretty much like the same time. And it's interesting that you went from being like a gym floor PT to online as well. I think it really helps to have that background when you're going into like online coaching.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think actually working with clients face to face and actually, getting to know them and understanding, how people work and all of that, it is important. So no, I did enjoy that. It came with its difficult times, long hours, as you probably know. And I think when I was like prepping during most of the time that I worked as a gym floor PT, I was doing bodybuilding. So, getting up at 6 to see clients, but then also doing all of the training and everything that's demanding of bodybuilding. It took its toll to say the least, but it was good.
Yeah, I can fully relate to that. So first of all, have you always had a balance between your personal social life and fitness related goals? Or is that something for you that's come with time throughout your training career?
So I think, as I said, obviously when I was at uni, there was a lot of balance, but maybe swayed more so to the social side of things. So I kind of got into fitness, and it was just sort of there in the background and starting to enjoy it a bit more. And as I sort of got into it more and started to enjoy it more, maybe I took it a bit more seriously. But yeah, I think there was more balance, but swayed over to the socializing side of things than to the training side of things. And then obviously when I competed, as you know, as many bodybuilders know, there is no balance. That word doesn't exist in bodybuilding. It's you're all in on that. So there wasn't any, as I said, for that 2018, going out for meals and stuff, going out drinking, all of that didn't happen. It was very much just focused on that goal, which at the time, like, I loved, don't get me wrong. And I've always said I've loved every part of like my bodybuilding career. I call it career, it's not a career, but you know what I mean. That part of my life, absolutely loved it. But then after that, once I stopped competing in 2018, I took time away from tracking. I took time away from, I didn't take time away from the gym. It was always there, but I wasn't on a fixed like training program. And just, I guess that was more of a balanced year for me, and just reestablishing some balance in my life. And then now I am training for a half Ironman. So again, I've got some balance in my life. I go out for meals most weeks, and I drink occasionally, but equally it is more of an extreme goal. So but yeah, I do have some more balance in my life now than opposed to the bodybuilding side of things, where absolutely no balance I had.
And now you have got that balance in your life again after a period of time without it. Do you ever feel like that's something that you would completely sacrifice again for a goal, or do you feel like you'll always like fight to almost maintain that?
Um, yeah, because I love social. Well, I say that I love socializing on occasion. I'm not one of those people that needs to go out like 3 times a week to see friends. I'm not. I love my friends and all of that, but I don't feel as though I'm like, right, what we're doing this weekend, Friday night, Saturday nights. I don't feel I need that. But so for me, balance is going out for a nice meal on a Wednesday night and maybe having like a couple of gins on a Saturday. For me, that's balance. I think it's different for everyone. What was the question? I can't remember what the question was again.
So now you've like almost re-established that balance. Like, would you ever give it up completely again, like you might have done?
No, I don't think so. I think that I need that. I do need that part of my life. There, I wouldn't want to, completely sacrifice it again. No, I think it is important, and I think it'll come. It's at like different levels, as I said. Like for some people, balance is going out for drinks every single night or something. But for me, that balance is the occasional drink here and the odd meal out there, and that works for me.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point actually to emphasize, that balance is not something that is like a one size fits all thing. I think it is very individual, because not everyone needs the same amount of like freedom. Not everyone needs the same amount of social occasions over the weekend. So you can almost find your own version of balance. I think it takes a while for you to find what yours is, but you shouldn't necessarily strive towards what someone else is doing with their life. You should find a balance between training, nutrition, and your social life, your personal life that works for you.
I think the more, like for me, the more I've got into my fitness, the more I realize that adds a lot more to my life than getting pissed at the weekend, or like, again, the occasional night out. I absolutely love it, don't get me wrong, I'm not like anyone else, but like it's not something that I crave, because I do get so much fulfillment from from the training that I do, seeing myself like progressing with when I do a better run, or my swim's got better, or whatever that may be. Like that brings me fulfillment as well. So I think that as well, like sort of finding what works for you in fitness, and that brings you that fulfillment. You then don't have to go out every weekend to sort of blow off steam, or whatever it may be. So that's how I see it anyway.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And so for most of the population who don't have extreme goals, such as stepping on stage, do you think it's realistic for them to be able to maintain a social life whilst making progress towards their goals, whatever they might be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Like I just said, I think it's I think finding, again, when we come back to that balance, and like not having to go out every single night, and not having to drink every single night, whatever that may be. I think that, sorry, say the question again.
So for the majority of the population, those who don't have extreme goals, so they're not wanting to like step on stage or do an Ironman or whatever, do you feel like it's realistic for them to be able to maintain a social life whilst they still make progress towards their goals?
Yeah, definitely. I think that when we're not focusing like on like extreme body like composition goals, every calorie doesn't matter. If you miss the odd training session, like that doesn't only matter. So like the odd meal out or the odd drink out, or whatever, that's not gonna completely ruin your progress. And then something that I say to my clients is that you still have to be, if you do want to make progress, and there's a reason people get into fitness, if you do want to make progress, you still have to put in the work to some level. You can have that balance, of course. You can go out, as I said, 3 times a week, whatever that may be, but then you've got to still be willing to put in the work on like the fitness side of things. That's how I would see it anyway.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think what's important is that people are realistic with their expectations. So yeah, if someone is wanting to maintain balance and maintain a social life, then they can't expect the results of, say, a bodybuilder who's literally dedicating every single hour of their day to their goal. So it's fine. Like, I think everyone is entitled to living their life in the way that they want to live it. And for the majority of the population, it is beneficial for them to maintain a social life while still progressing towards their goals. It will positively contribute to their health, enjoyment of the process, long-term success. But they also have to be realistic with their expectations, and they can't go looking at like bodybuilders on social media and thinking, why don't I look like that?
I found people have, when people have inquired about coaching with me, more so when I was bodybuilding, they're like, I want to look like you. And I'm like, that's really nice. That's really flattering. But the level of sacrifice that takes, like, and that's not me saying you'll never look like that. Of course, if you want to look like that, we can work together and we can try and look like that. But accept that, you can't then be socializing and drinking and eating out. And again, something I say to my clients is, yes, if you want to go out, we can work around it, but accept that maybe that week your progress may be slower. Maybe accept that you might see a maintain that week, and if you're okay with seeing a maintain that week, then cool, let's do it. If actually your goal is really close, and let's say you're going on holiday, you want to feel your best and you want to hit a certain goal, then maybe we actually don't do that week, and we wait until you've hit your goal, and then we add in that night out or whatever it may be.
Yeah, definitely. I think the easiest, from my experience from coaching, I think the easiest situation to maintain like a good social life and quite a lot of flexibility is when someone just wants to like make progress for life without a specific deadline. So they haven't got like a photo shoot or something that has a specific date, and actually they're just wanting to improve their health, body composition and training performance for themselves for the rest of their life, as opposed to having a deadline.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if that's the goal, if you're just wanting to feel better, and naturally I think as you start to look after yourself, you're naturally going to start to look better. But if the goal isn't solely to hit a certain weight or get visible abs or whatever that may be, then you can have that just more relaxed approach and just enjoy feeling fitter, enjoy going to the gym and that sort of, and enjoy everything about it.
Yeah, definitely. And are there any particular approaches from a nutrition perspective that you think are really good at enabling us to have that balance?
So, well, personally, I've always used the if it fits your macros flexible dieting approach, even during my competition prep actually, which I know a lot of people are on set nutrition plans. That just didn't work for me. I just got very good at tracking my food, and that enabled me and still enables me to have a bit of what I fancy. So I definitely think the flexible dieting and understanding what's in your food, because then that's a skill. When you've been tracking, that's then a skill you can then transfer over, and have that for life. So for me right now, I don't track my food at all. I think I've done it for that many years. I know sort of calories and things like that. I do generally tend to eat the same thing sort of day to day, but that tracking side of things I think is really useful for then if you want to incorporate a meal out, or if you want to incorporate a glass of Prosecco rather than that apple as a snack. Like if you want to use those calories for something else, I think it is a really good approach.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point as well. And I think it's nice to hear you say that, so that people realize if they do follow the approach of tracking their food, it teaches them so much. It can be incredibly useful. It allows flexibility rather than being solely restrictive, but it doesn't have to be for the rest of their lives. So once they've done it for a period of time, like you did and like I did, you've then got that knowledge like ingrained in you for the rest of your life, and you can use that, and you don't have to continue to track every single gram of food that you have throughout the rest of your life.
You don't have to be chained to MyFitnessPal forever. No, exactly. I've not used MyFitnessPal in quite a while, but it is a tool that the majority of my clients do use, and I try and get that point across to them that this isn't forever, but if you put in the work now and you can understand, for a period of time, understand what's in your food, then those habits will then stay with you. And that's not me saying like every day you have to track something different. The majority of my days look exactly the same, and I'm just copy and pasting meals over. Well, when I was tracking, copy and pasting meals over, but it then just allows you to understand what's in food. And then, as I said before, if then your snacks, let's say you've got a couple hundred calories, you can then use them one day for some chocolate, one day for some Prosecco, or whatever that may be. So it's a useful tool.
Yeah. And do you find tracking or following a flexible approach to nutrition has been beneficial for your own and clients' relationship with food as well, as opposed to following like a rigid meal plan?
Yeah, I think before I got into fitness, so I struggled with an eating disorder, had anorexia for like 8 years or something, for a long time, and I just saw all food as bad, like whether it was a potato or whether it was chicken or whatever that was. Like I just like thought, oh, they're just going to make me fat. Whereas now I understand, the different macronutrients and the different calories in foods, and yeah, just got a better understanding of food, and yeah, understanding how it fuels me, and that it's not all bad. So it definitely helps my relationship with food, and also understanding, as I said, that you can have a bit of chocolate thrown in there every day, and it's not the devil. I think a lot of people think, when you're dieting, it's like, I've just got to eat some chicken and some veg, and like the majority of my food, don't get me wrong, is made up of lean protein and lots of veggies. I like fueling my body, but you can also have that bit of what you fancy to keep you sane, and you can still have that in. And a lot of my clients are sort of realizing that, and when I send over like their initial sort of like food plan or food guide, like template, they see chocolate on there or a couple of digestives or whatever that may be, and they're like, well, I can eat this while I'm dieting. I'm like, yeah, you can. So it's nice to be able to teach people that, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think it's harder to maintain a social life and maintain quite a lot of flexibility if someone has body composition related goals as opposed to purely performance related goals? Do you think there has to be a greater level of sacrifice to some extent there?
um I'm just trying. Yeah, I think with the body composition goal, because you have to be so on it with every single calorie and every single, food timing matters and things. When the body composition goal is more extreme, it does make it more challenging, as opposed to a performance based goal. If you go over slightly on your calories, it's probably going to fuel you better for your run the next day or whatever that may be. So yeah, I feel as though maybe there's a greater level of sacrifice from the body composition side of things to the performance. I know that with my performance based goal now, I can afford to go out and maybe eat more so than when I was dieting for photo shoots. I didn't go out when I was bodybuilding, but for photo shoots, for example, I have more flexibility now, for sure. But that being said, I do have to be smart with my training and make sure that I'm not doing, like, I don't know, let's say I go out for a meal that's going to be really rich. I don't then want to go out the next day and have to do a 20-kilometer run when I've been eating all these foods and potentially drinking a bit. So it does take still a bit of planning, but maybe not as restrictive as a body composition goal.
Yeah. And out of interest, Laura, this is just me like asking about you personally. So I know you have obviously the performance related goal now when you're trying to improve your running performance, but you're not tracking your food. What sort of like targets do you have to hit in your own head at the moment? And what do you take into account from a nutrition perspective?
So I think at the moment I'm just making sure that I'm eating enough, because I think this week is about a 14-hour training week. So they are varying sort of between 12 to 15 hours. So making sure I'm eating enough, for one. But the main thing is I have 3 main meals across the day, which all contain a decent amount of protein in. So I hit all my protein from my 3 main meals. I make sure that there's a carbohydrate source with each of those meals, and I make sure that I pile my plate high with lots of veg. So I make sure within those 3 meals I hit all of like my health goals, if you like, and make sure I'm sort of fueling my body with goodness. And then outside of that, I snack on just a really high carbohydrate food. So I eat a hell of a lot of saurine, I eat a hell of a lot of cereal. But yeah, I mainly rely on, I mainly break it down into those 3 main meals, making sure that, a good protein source, carbohydrate source, and loads of veg, so I can just make sure I'm as healthy as possible.
Yeah, nice. It's just interesting, and I think it will be interesting for the listeners to hear what you take into account when you're not tracking food, but you are still working towards a performance related goal, and you need to make sure that you are fueled adequately and that you're able to recover, because at the end of the day, you would not be able to do your training hours if you just sort of like had no guidelines to hit and you had nothing that you were taking into account. So I think it's just useful for people to hear that when you're not tracking, it doesn't mean that you have to throw everything you know out the window, and you can still work to some guidelines and some like lifestyle factors to hit that will help you move forwards.
Yeah, exactly. Like I didn't stop well, actually when I first stopped tracking after bodybuilding, maybe I went a bit crazy then and just sort of ate what I wanted, but the fundamentals and the routine that I keep in place is exactly the same as how it looked when I was tracking my food. The three main meals that I have across the day, I make sure I'm feeling fueled from all of those, and that's where I get all of my goodness, my health comes from all of those meals for sure.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear, because I think people have a tendency to be like all or nothing rather than being willing to like sit in the middle ground and have some guidelines whilst enjoying some freedom. And most people would actually benefit from sitting in that middle ground, like where you are now, so that you can still move forwards but enjoy plenty of flexibility, and maybe have more of a focus on health and performance as opposed to purely focusing on their body composition, for example.
Yeah, I think having a performance-based goal, even when I was bodybuilding, actually, I was training for a half marathon at the same time. I'm just weird like that, but I like to do both. And when obviously I'm not focusing solely on body composition now, but I do keep that still in mind, because I want to maintain a body composition that is going to help with my racing. Obviously, if I was, in my off seasons, maybe I got up to about 70 kilos. I sit around 62, 63 now. Obviously, if I was at that, if I was up at 70 kilos, I'd find it difficult to run or to do anything. So I still keep an eye out on my body composition, but it's less so that I'm like, oh God, have I got abs? Have I got a vein there? Like, it's not as obsessive as it was when I was bodybuilding, but I still keep an eye on it. And that's why, again, I fuel my body with lots of goodness rather than just being like, oh, I'm doing loads of running so I can just eat chocolate.
And out of interest, do you think that having a performance focus helps with your body image and having less body preoccupation than when you are solely like body composition focused?
Yeah, 100%. When I was bodybuilding, like my progress was solely determined on, did I have more of a visible ab, or has my weight come down? Whereas now I can, base my progress on, have I run faster today? And it does take away from just focusing solely on your body composition, even if you have a bit of a, oh, I'm not feeling too great today in terms of like, I feel a bit bloated or whatever. If you've beaten your run time or your bike time, that gives you that fulfillment. That makes you like, actually, you know what, I'm smashing it. I might be a bit bloated today, but I'm smashing my goals. So it does take away from just solely, because when you see all these fluctuations in the scale weight, and sometimes that can be that can sort of bring you down. You're like, oh well, I worked so hard yesterday and my weight's gone up still. And then if you solely determine your progress on that, like it's a bit demoralizing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And in reality, fluctuations are normal, like on a daily basis. So
100%.
accepting that it will help you massively, because your stress levels will just reduce tenfold, as opposed to you overanalyzing every minor fluctuation that happens. Being accepting of that can just be an absolute game changer. And so what advice would you give to anyone from a nutrition perspective who might be going on a night out where there's food and alcohol, that wants to minimize the negative effects that the event might have on their progress?
So this is something I say to my clients, and still something I do myself personally, even though my goal maybe isn't body composition, I've still got goals. So I make sure I've hit all my like non-negotiables before I even go to that event. So whether that be, I still keep an eye out on my steps. If I've got training to do that day, I make sure I've got it done. If I've got 2 sessions, sometimes I've got double sessions to do, so I make sure I've got those done. I make sure, obviously, as a step target, I try and make sure I've hit as much protein and as much like micronutrients as possible. So within maybe like my breakfast, maybe I'll combine like my breakfast and my lunch and have maybe like a sort of a brunch style meal, and have, just as I said, a good portion of protein, a good portion of veg, and again just another one of my like fueling normal meals. So I pull calories down slightly during the day. If, let's say, we're going out in the evening, for example, for a meal and drinks, I make sure I hit all my water for the day. So, at least 3 to 4 litres. I've drunk all of that from across the day. So all of like my fitness side of stuff has sort of been taken care of. And then I can just be like, you know what, I not deserve this night out, but I can enjoy this night out because I know I've paid attention to my other goals as well. And again, that's something I say to my clients is, if you want balance, you actually have to do balance. You've got to put in the work on the fitness side of things if you then want to. I'm not saying it's like a trade-off, like, oh, it's a reward, but you have to, if you do have a goal and you want to still progress towards that goal, you can't be like, well, actually I'm going out tonight, so I'll train, I'll do my training another time, or I won't hit my water, or those kind of things. It is still important to hit all of those things. So yeah, pull back on my calories, drink lots of water, get all my steps done, training, get it all ticked off so I can just enjoy my night out.
Yeah, definitely. And so with that in mind, with you saying, you're going to get your training done beforehand, would you recommend that they try and program the next day when they might potentially be a little bit hungover or not feel their best as a rest day?
Yeah, if possible. And again, to be fair, I've done some really great training sessions when I've been hungover. I don't know what it is about me, but I have trained really well when I'm hungover. Maybe I'm just a bit strange, but obviously, yeah, if you can avoid training that following day, if you can get all your training done from across the week, and that may mean, as I said, doubling up on a session so that you don't have to do that one on the Sunday. Let's say you go out on the Saturday. So if you can move that session for sure, or suck it up and do it if you want if you want to keep progressing. I would it depends what the session is. Obviously, if you're having to go out on a 20-kilometer run and you're really hungover, then maybe don't do that. But getting out, getting some fresh air at least it's gonna at least help as well. So at least get you walking. That's what I would say to clients.
Yeah. And obviously some people are a little bit more prone to overeating when they've had a drink. So they might get in from a night out and be prone to snacking, or they might be prone to getting something on the way home from a night out, or when they're hungover, wanting to comfort eat. What could those people consider doing to sort of combat that and help them sort of stay on track towards their goals, whatever they might be?
So, I mean, I've never been like a big, like, after a night out, go for food. I'm one of them to like go to bed as soon as possible. But I would say the following day, let's say you are hungover, like I know it's easy to say when you're not hungover, but your body is really just craving like goodness to help it feel better. And I know everyone just wants like a pizza or just crap to help them feel better. And you never feel better after you've eaten a pizza. I don't care what anyone says, like, you feel full and you feel gross. So where possible, I would always say trying to get out and get some fresh air, just get out on a walk and try and just like walk off the hangover or whatever it may be. And where possible, trying to get some nutrients into the body. And as I said before, I know that sounds really like, oh, so fitness, like, but I feel as though trying to get some goodness into your body, and whether that's like making, rather than getting a Chinese, making your own stir fry or something along those lines, that's going to be far better for you and not going to dehydrate you and just actually make you feel worse. So yeah, that's my approach anyway. Like, I do just crave goodness after a night out, so I just want to pound my plate up with lots of goodness.
Yeah.
So
I think sometimes as well, like having a big glass of water when you get in, or trying to have a glass of water between alcoholic drinks, can help.
yes.
It can help prevent you being quite as hungover the next day, and it can also make sure that you're not mistaking thirst for hunger, which some people can sometimes do. And if someone is really prone to like wanting comfort food when they're hungover, maybe make sure that they have alternatives to that comfort food in their house, so they're not just prone to like overeating and ordering takeaways. So they could, for example, make sure that they have some eggs and some chicken sausages and beans or whatever they want to have, and make their own like version of a breakfast that isn't quite as full of grease and is a little bit more appropriate in terms of hitting their protein target and getting nutrients into their body, like you said. Those things can help massively, I think.
Yeah, I always have this filled up next to my bed, like wherever I go, if I'm staying away or if I'm at home. My water bottle's always filled up with a bit of squash in there as well. And then, yeah, as you said, like making better alternatives to the takeaway or whatever it is that you think you're craving. But as I said, you're usually just tired, so your body's actually just craving sleep. It's probably not craving the food that you want. So yeah, a bit of activity, a bit of fresh air, lots of water, and some better food choices potentially.
And if someone has a fat loss goal, so they're trying to sustain a calorie deficit, what drinks would you advise? And do you have any advice, say someone was at a social occasion where there's a buffet, is there anything that they could put into place that might help them sustain a calorie deficit if their goal is fat loss?
So yeah, I guess on the alcohol side of things, something like a sort of clear spirit and diet mixer, that's going to be probably your best bet. Maybe the odd glass of prosecco, but it depends on what volumes you're drinking these things in. Like, you can pick all the low calorie drinks you want, but if you're having 20 of them, it's not really gonna it's not really going to make any difference. So trying to, maybe if your goal is fat loss, maybe not going over the top, because obviously all those calories from all those drinks is going to add up. But a clear spirit and a diet mixer is always my go-to. I'm always a gin and slimline tonic personally. And the buffet side of things, again, I would try and eat something before you go out, so you're not getting to that buffet being like, oh my god, look at all this food choice, I want one of everything. That's obviously not gonna benefit you. So try and have something before you go out, I would say, so you're not getting there feeling absolutely starving. And then I guess it just depends. If it's going to be one of those like beige kids style buffet, then there's not really going to be a best bet. All I would say is try and just not to overdo it, and like I said, trying to eat something beforehand so you're not then just starving and having everything from the buffet. I'm sure there's always something healthier on the buffet, whether that be like some salad, load your plate up with salad, and then maybe some sort of protein source, where even if that is like battered chicken or something, like just something proteiny, and trying to get as much sort of salady bits in there as possible as well.
Yeah, and I think with buffets as well, it can be so easy to overeat if you're just like picking all night. So if you can stick to one plate and actually just get a plate full of what you want, that will decrease your likelihood of excessively overeating, which, if your goal is fat loss and you're trying to sustain a calorie deficit, is important. So yeah, if people stick to maybe one plate as opposed to just like picking all night, it's probably a better bet.
Yeah, it's so easy to do though, isn't it? You're just like, oh, just have one more. So yeah, as you said, one plate and then leave it, then it's done, and then focus on your gin and tonic and stuff.
And not only will that help with like obviously sustaining a calorie deficit, but also with digestion. If you actually sit down to eat and you chew your food properly and you plate it up, and you actually sit down to enjoy it, your digestion will be so much better, as opposed to you standing up eating off of the buffet, or like whilst you're chatting, having a conversation and things like that as well.
You don't realize what you're eating. And then also I say that to my clients, as you just said, when they go out for meals, I think when people go out for meals, they just think like, oh my god, I'm going out for dinner, like I can have starter, main, dessert, and have 3 bottles of wine, and people just get so overexcited. And it's like, but it's just another meal. So you can still socialize and be around people and just have your main course, enjoy what's on your plate, and that's fine. You're socializing, still enjoying it. It doesn't have to be, oh my god, I'm going out for dinner and it's going to be 2,000 calories. Like, it doesn't need to be that. So being, as you say, mindful while you're eating, putting your knife and fork down between each mouthful, just enjoying the company and being present. It doesn't have to actually, it doesn't have to be a 2,000 calorie ordeal. It can just literally be like a 600-700 calorie meal, and it's fine. It doesn't have to impact progress.
Yeah. And also, I think it's important to point out that social occasions don't just have to be about the food and alcohol that's there. At the end of the day, they are there for people to get together. They're about the company that you're in. And if you make sure that you recognize that and the importance of that, it will shift your focus. So you're not just going to meals out and thinking solely about the food that's going to be there, or solely about getting drunk or whatever it might be, but you're actually thinking about the company that you're going to be in and the quality conversations that you could have, and enjoying that human connection as well.
Yeah, because that's what it's about ultimately, isn't it? It's about being around other people. And that's definitely something I missed when I was like prepping for my bodybuilding shows, for sure. I think it was less about going out for meals and drinks. It was just about the company, because a lot of social occasions are around food and drink, aren't they? So yeah, that's definitely what people do crave, is being around good people. So yeah.
Exactly. And I think just recognizing that will help enable people to enjoy those occasions and not think that they're going to completely sabotage their progress. Because what people want is your company. They want your presence and they want you to be there. It doesn't really affect other people what you're putting inside your mouth, and you can choose what you decide to based on what your goals are and what your priorities are at that moment in time.
Yeah, don't feel pressured to have something if you don't, if your goal is your goal and you maybe don't want to quite go all out with the food, or have 20 Jaeger bombs. Like, you don't have to do that. And also it's worth realizing as well, so again, something I say to my clients is it's one meal across the week of 7.21 meals or something like that. So, you know, in the grand scheme of things, as long as you've done, if your goal still is fat loss or progression, whatever the goal is, if you've done everything else perfectly across the week, you've not missed your training, you know, you've hit your steps, your water, all your food and everything, actually that one meal out is a couple of percent of your week, if that. So try not to get too stressed about that as well. You can still continue to make progress.
Yeah. And also, I think something that people often get caught up in is when they eat out, they almost feel like they have to devour everything that's on their plate. And especially if your goal is fat loss, you know, it will increase your chances of staying in a calorie deficit if you leave food on your plate. But also, if your goal isn't fat loss, it's probably going to make you feel a little bit shit if you eat until the point you're uncomfortably full. So if you're partway through your meal and you feel satisfied, I think leaving food on your plate is the best option, because it's going to leave you feeling a lot better that day and the next day as well. So I think accepting for people that they don't have to eat everything in front of them is really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's something I say as well. You don't have to eat to the point of, you know, that you're rolling out of the restaurant and you feel uncomfortably full and it's washed down with wine, and then, you know, and then it has that knock-on effect as well. You feel, you know, you feel full, you feel lethargic, you're dehydrated, you then might not sleep too well because you've got poor digestion, and then you feel tired the next day, so you don't want to train. It just has that knock-on impact as well. So yeah, as you said, just being, I say to my clients, you're not a kid, like just eat like an adult. It's fine, just eat like an adult. We don't have to, it's not a kid in the candy store, just, you know, be calm with it.
Yeah, and it is obviously easier said than done, but when you put these things into place, I think it can help people enjoy social occasions more and relax around them, knowing that they don't have to negatively impact their goals, their health, and that they can still move forwards and enjoy them whilst progressing towards their goals.
Yeah, I think it's important to still enjoy them, but as I said, when it comes to balance, you know, if you do want to have balance with your fitness and with your socializing, it does have to be balance, and it takes time as well. Like, I don't think it's not just something that, you know, you start on a fitness journey and then all of a sudden you've got this perfect balance of I train really well and I eat out. Like, I've been doing, I say this all the time, but I've been doing like fitness for like 8 years. It's taken me a long time to establish a good balance. I've gone from one extreme to the other extreme and just finding that middle ground where I, you know, I do make like my training just gets done regardless of, you know, like what's going on or whatever. Like, these things just happen, and, you know, I can still make progress and go out, but it has taken time. And I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves, especially when they start out in fitness. And, you know, I'm sure it's the same with you with new clients, and they probably get frustrated because they see their weight go up because they went out for a meal, and, you know, it does take time. So I think also just being kind to yourself and accepting that.
Yeah. Are there any other pieces of advice that you would give to people who want to progress towards their goals and still enjoy their life and still enjoy social occasions before we finish off?
Another piece of advice, I think, make sure you, whatever the goal is, make sure that goal is right for you and you enjoy that goal, because then ultimately you're going to find better balance in still achieving that goal and, you know, your social life. If you actually want to achieve that goal, there's no point in, you know, someone signing up to a half Ironman like I am, but they hate doing every part of it, so they're never going to establish that balance. So yeah, finding a goal that's right for you, whether that's body composition, whether that's just enjoying life, whatever that is, I think that's an important one as well.
I think that's great advice, and an important point to make is that what matters to you and your goals are, they might change throughout your training career, like mine have and like yours have, and that's absolutely okay. Like, you've got to recognize that different things can serve you at different phases of your life, and that's something that obviously hopefully both of us can be an example of as well.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, yeah, it's been an interesting journey, I think, and it does change. It's never just the same, and I never know whether I'm going to go back to body composition based goals or stay with this. Like, it does just change, but it's exciting.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, Laura. Where can people find you across social media, and do you have a website, etc.?
So my on Instagram is where I post mainly, so that's just at Laura Bardsley, and my website is lbcoaching.org, and yeah, that's where you'll find me.
Perfect. For anyone interested, I will put Laura's details in the description down below. Thank you so much for listening. Please do make sure you give her a follow. And if you could like, subscribe, and share on your Instagram story if you are listening to the podcast, it would mean the world. This podcast is sponsored by Full Bore, and you can use my code, which is Danny10 at the checkout to save you a little bit of money. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.